Good afternoon. It's not the return home Raptors fans were hoping for. The team ousted from the NBA playoffs.
They fell to the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 7 of their first-round playoff series last night. CP24's Courtney Hills has more on the aftermath of the season-ending loss. Courtney.
Good afternoon. That's right. We're outside of the OVO Athletics Center, and we can tell you we're talking to some of the players, and they feel a little bit mixed about how everything went down yesterday. Of course, they're proud of the season. We know the fans are as well, but so disappointed with this loss last night in Game 7. The Cavs taking this game 114 to 102. We heard from quite a few of the players, including Brandon Ingram. Of course, he wasn't playing yesterday. He was out games 6 and 7 with right heel inflammation, and he was asked about that, what that felt like for him, having to sit on the sidelines, not there to support his team. He was very blunt, saying, well, that sucked. He also talked about how difficult it was returning home, knowing that's it for the season. We'll let you hear from him. We also heard from Scotty Barnes.
A little bit, we didn't know it would come so soon. It's just like an abrupt ending. So we, enjoyed each other on the plane last night. Played cards, listened to music, and just enjoyed the time, our last time together before off season came about. And yeah, just came to kind of abrupt end.
The difference between probably the regular season and the playoffs, for me personally, was just the level of aggression that I was playing with. Not on the defense side, I always play super aggressive, but just putting myself in the offense more, just trying to go get the ball and playing downhill with crazy force and speed, running transition every single play. That was just like a different level for me, I feel like.
And Scotty Barnes was also asked if he would consider it this season successful. He said he wasn't sure if he'd call it successful, but said they're a good team. They worked really hard. He was proud of what they accomplished. Also, really pointing to they're not done yet, talking about the optimism they have going into the next season. And I have to say, that's what we heard from fans this morning, saying it was disappointing what happened and how this season is now finished, but also just so proud of this team, how hard they battled during the regular season, pushed it in the playoffs to Game 7, and they have a lot of optimism about what is next for next year. Over to you.
Thanks, Courtney. Well, the Maple Leafs will be formally introducing 2 new members of their front office staff this afternoon.
They include a new face taking over as general manager and someone fans are very familiar with serving as senior executive advisor of hockey operations. CTV Chell Leathong joins us live now with a preview of this announcement. What can you tell us, Sean?
Well, Michelle and Andrea, the new face is John Chayka. He will be the general manager for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the one that Leafs fans know. He's actually a statue back there. Mats Sundin will be a senior hockey advisor in a full-time role, and he will be moving his family back to the city of Toronto, so we'll get used to seeing his face again. The Toronto Maple Leafs released a photo just a little while ago with CEO and president of MLSE, Keith Pelly, sitting with John Chayka and Matt Sundin. I'll start with giving a bit of background on Chayka. Now, Chayka famously became the youngest general manager in NHL history back in 2016 at just the age of 26 when he was hired by the Phoenix Coyotes. At that time, he had come from Stathletes. That was the firm he established with his sister, an analytics firm focusing on that side of hockey. And he was at the helm of the Phoenix Coyotes for about 4 years. But famously, he resigned that role and left under controversy. He was actually suspended by the National Hockey League for an entire season and has been out of the game for some time. Looking over to Mats Sundin, he's one of the most storied presence in Leafs history, playing over 900 games in the blue and white, was the captain for several seasons. He led them through 8 playoff runs, twice to the conference finals. He's got over 400 goals in a Leafs jersey, has scored 564 goals in his NHL career, famously getting his 500th career goal on home ice in Toronto. It was a hat trick that he scored in overtime. So there's a lot of good feeling around Mats Sundin, and the focus being the two of them together. What does that bring for the next chapter of the Toronto Maple Leafs? I mentioned John Chayka having that suspension and being out of the game for some time. So there's some question as to what he will bring and how people are feeling. Now, TSN's Matt Cause spoke a little while ago about this, and here's what he had to say.
Maybe no matter what the decision was going to be today, I was going to be underwhelmed. but the richest team in all of hockey, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, that has financial might over anyone else. And the best they can do is they bring in John Chayka, who's a very smart and talented guy, but he's been out of the NHL for 5 years. He got suspended and booted by the league. He didn't exactly have great success with that time, the Arizona Coyotes. And is there a president, Mats Sundin? What's his role? It feels murky. Like, it's just on this Monday, the Raptors felt inspiring over the weekend, and the Maple Leafs feel anything but that. And I hope I'm wrong.
So the team will be introducing the pair at a press conference at Real Sports Bar and Grill at 1 o'clock today. And no doubt that will come up, the past for both players. And we'll see just what this next chapter looks like starting today. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Andrew, Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Still to come, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with key European allies in Armenia today. We'll have those details a little later in the newscast.
A pedestrian has been sent to hospital after being struck by a truck in Leslieville. The incident happened in the area of Queen Street and Logan Avenue around 7:15 a.m. The pedestrian was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The driver of the truck remained at the scene. The circumstances leading to the pedestrian being struck are still under investigation.
No injuries have been reported after shots were fired in a Green Pea parking lot in North York. Police called to this lot near Yonge and Shepherd around 2:30 a.m. When officers arrived, they found evidence of gunfire at the scene. So far, police have not provided information on possible suspects.
Peel police are searching for a suspect after a man in his 20s was seriously injured in a fight in Mississauga. Police say the victim was found with signs of a trauma in a drive-through of a McDonald's location on Lakeshore near Cawthra Road around 12:40 a.m. Police say the victim and another man were involved in a fight at a nearby bar, which continued outside the McDonald's. By the time officers arrived, the other man had left the scene. He's described as having a heavy build and was last seen wearing blue jeans and a white shirt with red markings. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward.
A Hamilton police officer was sent to hospital following a crash this morning. This happened just before 7:30 in the area of Highway 6 and Clapperson's Corners. Police say two cruisers were responding to a priority call for service in the area when a vehicle in the intersection suddenly braked, leading to a chain reaction crash. All three vehicles were damaged, with one officer taken to hospital as a precaution. The province is announcing new measures aimed at keeping people safe on public transit.
The new rules would crack down on illegal drug use as well as drug production. CP24's Steve Ryan has been following this announcement and joins us live now with the details. Steve.
Yeah, we heard today from the province inside of the Downsview Park subway station that they were going to introduce this crime or justice bundle in the House in the near future. And as you mentioned, Andrea, a couple of things that are going to be new are arrest authorities for special constables on transit property and cracking down on landlords who are aware of drugs being manufactured in their homes that they are renting out and doing nothing about that. And the Solicitor General spoke about pill crushers, having pill crushers as a result of wanting to be in the drug business. If you are a landlord, you can face penalties for knowing that that's taking place in the home that you are renting out. So they are expecting some real changes when it comes to safety on transit systems. This will now give the special constables the authority, if they see somebody using illicit drugs on transit property, they can now arrest them and remove them. And the Solicitor General said that this is being done so that there is a quicker reactionary time, and this will free up police officers who are out in the roads doing a lot of other different radio calls, and the need for the police to arrive right away may not need to happen as a result of these new authorities being given to these special constables. Here is more from the Solicitor General and from the President of the Ontario Special Constables Association.
Far too many Ontarians are encountering individuals whose behavior is affected by these substances in their day-to-day lives, on their way to work, in their communities, and in parks and in public spaces. These interactions can be frightening and in some cases very dangerous. And when they happen in the enclosed space of a bus, a streetcar, or a subway train, they are often even worse.
It is a meaningful step forward in supporting special constables working in public transit and strengthening safety across the transit systems millions of Ontarians rely on every day. It also signals something else important: an acknowledgement that the role of special constables has evolved and will continue to evolve. As responsibilities grow in complexity across sectors, the framework that supports our work must keep pace.
It's anticipated that this new legislation will take effect 1st of July. Back to you guys.
Ontario's top court is set to hear an appeal in Peter Nygard's sexual assault case today. The former fashion mogul was convicted of 4 counts of sexual assault in 2023 and sentenced to 11 years in prison. His lawyers argue the Toronto trial judge made errors, including admitting the testimony of an expert on trauma. Nygard's prison amounts to less than 7 years due to the time he was already spent in custody before and during the trial. Well, the mayor has announced steps the city is taking to crack down on bad landlords at 500 Dawes Rd.
Enforcement powers have been strengthened to compel landlords to improve deteriorating conditions. CTV's Beth Macdonell has been following this story. She joins us live with more. Beth.
Yes, Michelle, the mayor today is touting improvements at this rental building behind me, 500 Dawes Rd. It's near St. Clair and Victoria Park. This rental building has a history of serious problems, everything from cockroaches to rodents and safety issues. But the mayor says recently this landlord was fined $200,000 for failing to comply with property standards. She says she helped coordinate city services to come in and do remedial work and expedite a process which allows the cost of that work to be added to the landlord's property bill. This building, she says, is a template to improve rental housing conditions across the city.
The owner of this building has been fined $200,000 at the Ontario Court of Justice. It's about time. And over 40 violations, years of orders ignored, which is why she's fined. And now, the city has used its remedial action powers here. We hired contractors, we're doing the work, and we are sending the bill to the landlord.
The mayor, who has not formally announced she is running again, was asked if this was a campaign announcement. She said no. This announcement did happen in Councillor Brad Bradford's ward. He has announced he is running for mayor. As for improving conditions at rental buildings, the mayor says she encourages tenants to call 311 and organize with their neighbors. Reporting live, I'm Beth Macdonell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. The TTC is warning riders about an early closure on Line 2 this week. Starting today, subway service between Woodbine and Kennedy ends at midnight. This early closure will last until Thursday. The transit agency says the change is to accommodate planned track work. Shuttle buses will be operating in place of trains. Regular subway service will resume each morning around 6 a.m.
More news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. A really beautiful day compared to what we've been used to. Lindsay Morrison joins us now. And Lindsay, I cannot complain about the current conditions. Walking the dog this morning, everybody had a smile and just a pep in their step.
This is the kind of weather we want in the month of May, is it not, Andrea? Beautiful sunshine, comfortable temperatures today. It is a little bit windy out there, so there is that. But on the satellite and radar, we see nothing but blue sky right now. A little bit of fair weather, high cloud in some areas. Winds today out of the south, and as mentioned, they're going to be a little breezy today. Gusts near 50 kilometers per hour will be possible, but that is simply ushering in the warmer air from the U.S. into our neck of the woods. We're at 18 degrees right now. We are forecasting a daytime high near 21. Many communities are going to hit that 20-degree mark today. It just might be the only day this week that happens. So we'll talk about some cooler air on the way, plus the chance of showers returns. I'll show you when that's coming up. For now, Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. We turn now to the trade war between Canada and the United States. Today, Ottawa announced a $1 billion loan program for steel, aluminum, and copper businesses impacted by U.S. tariffs.
The loans will be between $2 million up to $50 million. The first year will be zero interest rate, and afterwards, year second and third will be very low rates. There will be no repayment for the entire 3 years, only actually interest to be paid on these loans. And at the end of the 3 year, that's when repayment will be asked.
The government says the program will make sure companies have the tools and financing they need to keep operating and adapt to future market conditions. The U.S. has imposed 50% duties on items made entirely or almost made entirely of steel, aluminum, and copper, and 25% levies on derivative items. Ottawa also announced an additional $500 million today to assist small and medium businesses affected by the tariffs. Prime Minister Mark Carney has been meeting with allies at the European Political Summit in Armenia.
The gathering is focused on strategic cooperation in politics, security, and infrastructure.
For the very first time, we have invited a non-European guest, the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Carney is the first Canadian Prime Minister to speak at the summit, which includes EU countries and others like Turkey and Ukraine. In his opening remarks, the Prime Minister said countries must deal in the current reality rather than the world order they would prefer to be operating under.
The world is undergoing a rupture across several dimensions: in technology, in energy, in commerce, and geopolitics. Integration is being used as a weapon by some, and the rules are not constraining the hegemons. Now, we have to actively take on the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. We know nostalgia is not a strategy, but we don't think that we're destined to submit to a more transactional, insular, and brutal world.
Carney met with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa. The meetings come a day after he was extended an invitation to speak to the European Parliament later this year. The trip is part of the Prime Minister's efforts to deepen ties with allies beyond the United States. Meanwhile, the PM also met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Today, Carney announced a $270 million contribution, which would help purchase items from the United States, which Ukraine needs from an already submitted NATO list.
There are a series of packages that are made available. Canada has participated in a number of them. They're not divisible as packaged. You can't send part of a missile system. You have to send the whole thing. And with this money, we're going to be able to complete one of the packages with some Nordic partners, with Belgium and others. So the President was not surprising. President Zelensky was grateful.
The funding is part of a previous commitment of more than $2 billion in support for Ukraine. This latest contribution brings Canada's total monetary support for the country to $25.8 billion since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began in 2022.
Starting today, executives in the federal public service are expected to be back in the office 5 days a week. The Treasury Board announced a change to remote work rules in February, with all other employees being required to be in the office 4 days a week starting July 6th. The rules apply only to public servants in core departments and agencies under the Treasury Board. However, some separate agencies like the CRA have indicated they intend to follow similar rules. The changes have been met with pushback by unions, with some filing unfair labor practice complaints.
There has been a deadly outbreak of a rare rodent virus aboard a cruise ship in the Atlantic. 3 people have died. Another 3 are receiving treatment following a suspected outbreak of Hantavirus. The vessel left Argentina 3 weeks ago, heading for Cape Verde. However, it's not anchored in the Atlantic as the World Health Organization coordinates medical evacuations. Hantavirus is carried by rodents and can cause fatal respiratory illness. CTV's Scott Hertz has been following this story. He joins us now live with more. Scott, what more can you tell us about this suspected outbreak?
Good afternoon, Michelle. At this time, about 150 passengers are currently stuck on that ship, waiting for help off the coast of Cape Verde in the Atlantic Ocean today. According to health officials from that island nation, passengers will not be allowed to disembark in Cape Verde as the WHO investigates and coordinates medical evacuations. As you mentioned, 3 people on board the ship, a Dutch couple and a German national, are among the dead, and another 3 are receiving medical care after a suspected hantavirus outbreak. The World Health Organization says detailed investigation is underway, including more laboratory testing. The vessel is operated by a Dutch-based tour company, Oceanwide Expeditions, and it can hold about 170 passengers and about 70 crew members. Here's one of those passengers who posted this video on social media talking about the current experience.
I'm currently on board the MV Hondius. And what's happening right now is very real for all of us here. We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people. People with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part. All we want right now is to feel safe, to have clarity, and to get home.
Well, of course, a tragic situation so far, no doubt terrifying for those passengers who are still on board. Michelle, of course, we know cruising is a popular tour and travel option for many Canadians, so we've reached out to Global Affairs to find out if there are any Canadians impacted on the ship. So far, we have not gotten an answer back.
No doubt people watching are wondering, maybe they've never heard of this Hantavirus. Can you tell us more about it?
Hantavirus is carried by rodents and can cause fatal respiratory illness. It is mainly spread by contact with rodents or their urine or droppings. The WHO says human-to-human transmission is quite rare. Now, the illness starts with flu-like symptoms, but an infection can quickly become much more severe and potentially life-threatening if not treated in hospital. Now, there's no specific treatment or cure, but early medical intervention can really increase the chance of survival. Currently, it's unclear how or where these cases were picked up. Was it prior to the cruise or while on the cruise? It originated from Argentina and made stops on some remote islands along the way to Cape Verde, now off the coast of West Africa. If you're trying to pinpoint why you might have heard of Hantavirus in the last several months, in the past year, it gained a lot of attention after late actor Gene Hackman's wife, Betsy Arakawa, died of Hantavirus infection in New Mexico last year, Michelle.
Scott Hurst live for us in the National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Well, turning to the war in the Middle East, Iran's Navy says it has prevented American warships from entering the Strait of Hormuz and that 2 missiles hit a U.S. warship. However, U.S. Central Command says no U.S. Navy ships have been struck by any missiles. Iran had warned U.S. forces earlier in the day not to enter the key waterway after President Donald Trump vowed to get shipping traffic moving again. He says the U.S. would start guiding stranded ships out of the strait today. According to the International Maritime Organization, about 20,000 crew members on roughly 2,000 stranded ships have been stuck in the strait since the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran in February.
از طریق پاکستان دریافت کردیم. اجازه بفرمایید من در مورد جزئیات
Meanwhile, Iran says it has received a U.S. response to its latest peace proposal. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson says Tehran is reviewing the response while accusing Washington of complicating the diplomatic process to end the war. No details of the U.S. response were released. The U.S. has not confirmed that it has replied.
Aujourd'hui, je regarde la situation. Si les États-Unis veulent réouvrir, sont prêts à réouvrir Hormuz.
French President Emmanuel Macron is urging Iran and the U.S. to make a joint effort to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He says it's the only solution to permanently unblock ships. Macron also reiterated his position that France would not take part in any operation using force in a framework he describes as unclear. While gas prices are continuing to trend upwards as a result of the war in the Middle East. CTV's Judy Trin joins us live now from Ottawa with more on the impact the rising prices are having on Canadians. Judy, now, how are rising fuel costs affecting Canadian road travel this summer? Because a lot of people are saying they're not going to travel abroad or out of the country because of the cost of jet fuel, but now they have to travel in Canada and they still have to deal with it.
That's right. It's complicating things, Andrea. I don't know about what it's like in Toronto right now, but in Ottawa, I drove in this morning and gas prices were at $1.89 a liter. In Labrador and Newfoundland, it's above $2. It's also above $2 in the Vancouver area. So gas prices are rising across the country. And to put it into perspective for our viewers, since the U.S. launched its war against Iran on February 28th, the price of gas in Canada has gone up by more than 50 cents a litre. So that's just astronomical. And then in the past month, the Tire and Rubber Association of Canada did a survey of 1,000 drivers. And what they found was that 66% of those people surveyed, drivers, said that they plan to either shorten their road trips this summer or cancel them outright. And 70% of individuals said they expect gas prices to remain high and that this is the new normal. Andrea.
The other day I was driving and I saw gas was $2.13, but then I realized it was for diesel, but still astronomical. Yeah, in Toronto it's $1.88, $1.89. People want to know how much higher can the cost of gasoline jump before prices settle down? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but it's a question that I have to ask you.
You're right, Andrea. You know what? And it's a question that everyone wants answered. But until the volatility in the Middle East stabilizes, we aren't going to get a clear sense of how high fuel prices can go. What I can tell you is that some projections say that the price of oil, which currently sits at about $110 right now, could go above $120 a barrel. So when that happens, you're going to see that downstream impact on gas prices. So if we are seeing $2 gas a liter in Newfoundland, Labrador, and BC, we could also see it in Ontario, in Alberta. So these are the markers that we have to look at. And Andrea, I just want to point out to our viewers also, this gas price that we're seeing right now already takes into account the removal of the federal excise tax, which reduces the price at the pumps by about 10 cents. So whether or not there could be more relief from the federal government, it's hard to say. But we know that the Conservatives have been clamoring for this. Right now, that reduction of that federal excise tax happens until the end of August or the Labor Day long weekend. The Conservatives want to see it stretched out for the end of the year because this volatility, these high gas prices will be around for months and possibly up to a year. Andrea.
CTV's Judy Trent in Ottawa. Thank you, Judy.
Well, overall, I'd say this is a pretty nice way to kick off a new week. We've got sunshine, we've got comfortable temperatures. Take a look at today's forecast daytime highs, about 21 degrees here in Toronto. Average temperature this time of year is now about 17 degrees. Hamilton, the warm spot so far, just shy of 20 degrees, but I think many areas are going to climb above that today. It's not a completely warm week, though. We're going to be back to seasonal or slightly below in the coming days. However, we have a few more sunny days to look forward to this week compared to last. Details after the break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
A new mixed media exhibition inside 401 Richmond explores Indigenous identity and cultural representation through photography, beadwork, sculpture, and more. That's where we find CTV's Jessica Smith, who joins us live now with more. Jess.
Hi, Andrea. It's the kind of exhibition that has got so much going on. You have to come in and spend some time here. I'm joined by the curator, Jesse King, and talk to me about smoke signals and reflections, because it really is a literal smoke signal to bring people together, but it's also talking about our First Nations people, our Indigenous people, and their connection to togetherness.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming. It's a very important exhibition to me. It's presented by TD Bank and the City of Toronto. And what the exhibition really is, it sort of acts as a broadcast signal. So it's great that you're here today. So what you'll see is going through the exhibition is sort of different methods and vehicles of broadcasting. So you'll see a TV tower that acts as the signal, and then other sort of just deep personal moments that are sort of shown through photography, beading, and immersive experiences.
And there's so much going on in here, and I know a big theme of this, we were talking before we came on camera, is about representation and how important that is, not only for our friends in the Indigenous community, but for our Two-Spirited community as well. Why was it important for you to be able to bring all of those themes together with the different pieces, because you've got such a mixed media exhibition here?
Yeah, so creating this exhibition, I really wanted to have different modes of media. So having the Steve's collection in here really talks about sort of our past, and bringing in emerging artists from mid-level to emerging to established, brings in the sort of the present and the future, and sort of where Indigenous sort of art is now going.
And I know for you, we were speaking again a little bit earlier about, for yourself, this exhibition is kind of a bit of a love letter to your younger self. Explain that to the audience.
Yeah, so for this, I really wanted to sort of like almost like heal my inner self with this exhibition, because I didn't really normally see my identity explained anywhere, really. So I really wanted to create and curate an exhibition where artists, visitors can feel very affirmed and secure and safe in a space, who are two-spirit, gender non-conforming.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much. The exhibition is here at Forward Richmond until June 13th. Lots of time to come and check it out. I'm going to send things back inside to the studio.
Thank you both.
Jess.
Yeah, see you.
Okay.
Looks wonderful. Well done. Weather-wise, wow, this is how you start the week. Monday vibes. We've got everything's blooming right now. The sunshine, it's quite warm, and it felt really nice to start the day, too. It feels like we've turned the corner.
Have we turned the corner, though, Lindsay? That is the question. Have we turned the corner?
Well, I don't know if I have the answer that you're looking for. It is going to get a little bit cooler again this week, but more of a return to seasonal or slightly below seasonal than a real dip below. Over the weekend, it was quite chilly. We had frost in many areas. We're seeing less of that as we make our way through the next couple of days, but I will say today's looking like arguably the best day of the week. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. As always, our CTV News chopper was flying high above our beautiful city today. Nice view of the CN Tower there. And we caught a couple of sneaky shots of what looks like a little preview of summertime. There's the waterfront, the beach area. If you have an opportunity today, spend some time outside because, again, it's nice and comfortable out there already. You will find it a little bit windy today, and those winds are for the most part coming from the south and southwest, so it is a warm air kind of wind, but into tomorrow we're going to switch to a north and northwesterly wind. So that's going to change things up a little bit. Still 18 degrees this hour. We are forecasting an afternoon high near 21, and some pretty gusty winds are going to assist us in getting there. But look at about tomorrow night, more of a northwesterly wind, so that cools us down for Tuesday. Even tonight, we're not necessarily looking at a cool down, but conditions will start to change as we make our way into the evening and overnight. We've got the chance of showers and the risk of a thunderstorm. And tomorrow, it looks to be much the same. I'm going to show you the forecast radar in just a moment to show you what that all looks like timing-wise. But next 3 days, notice the cool down. We're at about 12 degrees for a high on Thursday, so that is below seasonal. 17 degrees is our average temperature this time of year. And yeah, we do have a couple of chillier days to look forward to. Satellite and radar, all is calm and quiet for now, but we're tracking a couple of disturbances that look to bring us first that chance of thunderstorms tonight, and then also the possibility of perhaps a period of rainfall into tomorrow. Timing-wise, there's about 10 o'clock tonight, north shoreline of Lake Erie over toward Niagara, maybe back toward Hamilton. Best chance of seeing active weather. Also the potential through the overnight hours, and there's midday tomorrow, so it's a dry day for the most part for us. Again, anybody across extreme southwest Ontario over toward Niagara has the better chance of seeing a steadier rain right through overnight into Wednesday morning too. This is an idea of how much rainfall we could be in for. Again, it's not a lot here in the city of Toronto, but some areas could see perhaps 10 to 15 millimeters of rain. Your 7-day forecast looks like this. Certainly cooler conditions as we make our way through the next several days. But an early look at the weekend looks pretty pleasant with a mix of sun and cloud expected both days. That's the weather for now. Andrea, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. The Blue Jays will look to get back in the win column tonight when they begin a series with the Tampa Bay Rays.
1-0 to Okamoto, and he hits it high, deep to left center field. Martin back, so is Larnach. They lead, it's gone!
Kazuma Okamoto hit his team-leading 9th homer of the season in the 9th inning yesterday afternoon. However, the Jays fell just short of a comeback against the Minnesota Twins, losing the game 4-3. First pitch for tonight's game against the Rays is set for 6:40 p.m. in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, a new study suggests the more people interact with artificial intelligence, the more it changes how they think about themselves. We'll have the details when we return. More and more people are interacting with chatbots like Claude and ChatGPT, and a new study suggests that might be changing how we think about ourselves.
For more, we're joined by CTV science and technology specialist Dan Riskin. And Dan, what is it about talking to chatbots from doing a search on Google? So I know that sometimes when I do a search on Google now, I think that it just automatically goes to AI.
Yes. Yeah, no, it does do that.
Yes.
The big difference between these AI interactions and the Google interactions is that with Google, you would say, you know, I'm looking for a Boston Terrier, and it would come back and give you listings of Boston Terriers. But now it's like, ooh, a Boston Terrier, that's a great idea. That's a wonderful kind of dog. It's so nice, and it's artificial. And is that good for us? This latest study suggests it isn't. And so there's a place on the internet you can go called Am I the Jerk? Although it starts with the letter A, it doesn't use the word jerk. It's a subreddit, and you can post something there and say, hey, I went to the park today, and there was no trash can, so I left my garbage at the base of a tree. Am I the jerk in this situation, or is it their fault for not having a garbage? Now, if you ask people, and people have asked that literal question on Reddit, people say, you're the jerk. You shouldn't have done that. But if you put that to a chatbot, half the time, it will say, you're in the right. It's the park's fault. And as a result of getting told that you're in the right when you really aren't, you start to believe it. And so they did a bunch of follow-up experiments that show that people are less likely to apologize when they've done something wrong. They're less likely to try to make amends with a family member when they believe that they're in the right because of what the chatbot told them. And so this is one of the fears that's coming out with these chatbots, is that just like social media brought out all these trolls that we didn't know existed, maybe these AI interactions are going to bring out the worst in people in thinking that they're really great when in fact they really aren't.
And we already have a problem with COVID. A lot of people, they didn't do a lot of social interactions, so they've lost that ability, and now this compounds it.
Yeah, exactly, right. If this becomes your best friend, and that's who I worry about most is kids, right? And so it's, one of the things about being a teenager is that your friends can be sometimes a little hot and cold. Chatbots aren't. They'll always be nice to you. They'll always think you're cool. And that prevents you from having certain kinds of learnings that you just have to go through as a teenager.
Yeah, not every idea is a good idea. Let's talk about games, specifically games like Uno, Settlers of Catan, Scrabble. There is some research that shows they might actually have some deep evolutionary links. What's that all about?
Yeah, though, this is really neat. I mean, we play games in my house, but, you know, lots of people play games in their house. And it turns out around the world, people play games. This is a human trait. And like any universal human trait, the thought is maybe this has evolutionary roots. And so some researchers did some experiments where they had people playing games and then for filling out questionnaires about the person they'd been playing games with. They played with strangers, they played with friends, they ran computer models. And here's what comes out of all of that, is that the idea that when we play games with people, it's a way of assessing how good an ally they would be for a difficult situation. So if I play a couple rounds of Uno with you, I have a sense of whether you're trustworthy, how smart you are, whether you're kind or whether you're mean. And if I need to pick who I'm going to go out with to try to hunt that mastodon or something like that, that might be the information I need. And so maybe these games evolved as a way for us to suss each other out before the stakes were too high. And now this carries over to today with these games that we just play for fun.
Okay, real quick before you go, a study showing that your accent may not entirely tell where you're from, but perhaps where you want to be. And I remember when Madonna was in England, all of a sudden she had an accent.
Oh, yeah. Well, and listen, the science can't explain Madonna. That's beyond the scope of what science can do. But this does explain a rural county in Ohio, not far from Toledo, where people really have a range of accents. Some of them sound like they're from the Midwest, and some of them sound like they're from the South. But these are all people that grew up in the same place. And so with a bunch of surveys about what was spoken in your house and all this stuff, the big thing that came out of the survey was how people identify. If they see themselves as country, driving a pickup truck, listening to country music, you know, hunting, stuff like that, they tend to have a more southern accent. And if they see themselves not as country, if they're more into like golfing and cycling and things like that, theater, they tend to have more of a Midwest accent. And so this is the idea that your accent isn't just where you come from, but also where you're trying to go. And I think that's really empowering and really neat to think about, especially in Canada, where there's so many different accents to hear.
Okay, well, Dan Riskin, thank you very much for joining us today.
The pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Ta-ta, Dan.
Ta-ta.
Still to come on CTV News, May the 4th be with you. We'll have more on how people are marking Star Wars Day when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Well, it appears the fashionable choice for moviegoers this past weekend was The Devil Wears Prada 2.
So I used to have your job. Got to go to Paris Fashion Week.
Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci reunited for the sequel 20 years after the original The Devil Wears Prada, racking up $77 million U.S. across North America. Michael still going strong with $54 million in ticket sales despite falling to second place. And the Super Mario Galaxy movie took third with $12.1 million.
Today is May the 4th, also known as Star Wars Day.
I'll take out every bad guy in your deck of cards.
The date is considered a pseudo-holiday for fans of the franchise today. Those fans will be looking forward to the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's set to hit theaters on May 22nd and will be the first Star Wars film to be shown on the big screen since 2019.
Coming up, flipping through the pages of the phone book. Remember those? We'll have more on the continued use and what some would consider a piece of history when we come back. Well, this happens to be the time of year Canadians get their phone book delivered in the mail.
A phone book, you ask? It may surprise you to know that phone books are still being produced at all. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth takes a closer look at what may consider to be a relic of the past.
Corrine McClellan received the latest phone book in the mail.
We took it out of the mailbox, walked home with it, and threw it right in the recycling bin.
Phone books have been discontinued in many Canadian cities. They are still sent out in small numbers. But even so, Mike McJanet hasn't used one in 20 years.
There's different ways of doing things today.
I think probably in another 2 to 3 years, we won't see phone books anymore.
CTV reached out to the Yellow Pages company to ask how much longer phone books in Nova Scotia will be produced. We did not receive a response. Digital anthropologist Giles Crouch says people now find phone numbers online.
Any single-use technology that can be replaced by a digital technology will get replaced by it.
Crouch says the same online technology has changed many aspects of our lives. Even hard copy instruction manuals and other paper products are being phased out by smartphone QR codes.
But you can also use them for a menu if you're at a restaurant. We saw that a lot during the pandemic. And you can use them to do two-factor authentication for safety.
With things like phone books, paper manuals, and paper menus slowly being phased out, what does that mean for people who don't have access to smartphones or the internet? Seniors advocate Bill Van Gorder says close to 30% of Canadian seniors are not online. They use phone books.
The problem for them is their children, the people they want to call, all have cell phones, and the cell phones aren't in the phone book.
Van Gorder wants seniors to adapt to digital technology to maintain their independence and social connections. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
We're reminiscing about phone books, especially as journalists.
Yes.
We used to just go right through the phone book
and call every person with a name until we could find someone and then talk to them about a story. Yeah. But I just wanted to backtrack about May the 4th be with you. Do you know where it originally came from? It's not Star Wars.
No idea.
Don't know.
Okay, so Margaret Thatcher had a political ad in 1979, May the 4th be with you, because that was the day, that was election day, and she won, and that's where it came from, because Star Wars came out in 1997, and nobody was thinking, May the 4th be with you, May the 4th be with you, because that came years later. So originally, we can thank the British for that. May the 4th be with you. Okay. And that is the rest of the story.
Yay.
And with you.
And fortunately, our weather is not British today. It's beautiful sunshine, at least for today.
Yeah, this is what we often like to think of as typical May weather here in southern Ontario. The last few days have felt a lot more like April, and early April at that. But let's take one more look at where temperatures stand right now. Nice and comfortable out there. I do expect that these temperatures are going to climb over the next couple of hours here, in many cases into the 20s. 20s. And then overnight tonight, we're warmer than normal too. 11 degrees is our forecast low. We do, however, start to see a chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorms tonight, and that continues into tomorrow. Might be a bit of a miss for us here in the GTA, but again, the risk is there. 15 degrees is the expected high for tomorrow, so suddenly on the cool side of seasonal, and we will be well below seasonal as we make our way toward the end of this week. Once again, I do see a couple of sunny days in this 7-day forecast, including over the weekend. Mother Nature is helping us out for Mother's Day on Sunday, but keep the umbrella handy for Wednesday and for the day on Friday. And this is after the chance of showers and thunderstorms into tomorrow. That's your look at the weather. Andrea and Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Andrea Case. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.